I met a woman named Sherry. We won't mention her last name because there's no need to. Besides that, it might piss her off. I was singing every Monday or Wednesday night at John and Peter's in New Hope, Pennsylvania. One night on stage, a lovely woman in a white spring dress wandered in and sat down. I kept singing and staring at her. I couldn't help myself. It was that same old feeling that creates that instant fire that I've mentioned before. Sure enough, by the time I took a break and got off the stage, she disappeared. No one had seen her but me. I asked friends in the room, but no one had noticed her. The next week it happened again, but this time my good friend, Jeff Morgan, who was playing guitar with me, saw her also. Again, she disappeared as mysteriously as the week before. 3 weeks into this, she was there again, out of nowhere. I stopped the show and unplugged my guitar and walked to her table and asked her for her name and phone number. She stayed so I could talk to her on the break. She was from Texas and had just recently rented a room in New Hope while she was studying to be a shrink at the university in Philadelphia. She had just received her master's degree and was starting to work on her doctorate. I asked her if she would be interested in going to dinner when I got back off the road from Seven Springs the next week. She said yes, and I made the arrangements for the time and evening right then. What a lovely creature God created when He made Sherry. I made reservations at a French restaurant in New Hope. It was across the street from the Logan Inn where my permanent room was. A very romantic table in a secluded dark corner, candlelight and all. I thought about her all week and couldn't wait to get back from Seven Springs to have dinner with the mysterious dark-eyed woman. I got back from Seven Springs on Sunday morning and got into my room and got a good sleep. I wasn't supposed to meet Sherry at Martine's until 8 o'clock. I awoke that afternoon and showered and put on my black jeans, black shirt, black boots, and big black cowboy hat and brushed out my long white beard and went downstairs to the hotel bar for a martini. I spoke to Sherry earlier on the phone from my room and she sounded excited about our romantic dinner date. My friends in town had called and wanted to get together that night and I told them I had an appointment with my shrink. No one knew anything about Sherry or even that she existed, so the word went out all over town that I was seeing a shrink. It was perfect because they all knew I was crazy anyway. I didn't really talk about my new escapades in my show, only the old ones, although everyone in town knew I was total, sexually free expressing, drinking lover of all women. I was also a confirmed bachelor at this point in my life. I had no intentions of settling down, but God, how I loved and still do all of the women in the world. Women are wonderful creatures that God created for men to look at and worship, even though man will never understand them. Women also will never understand man. It takes a lifetime of relationships to realize the age-old statement is true. You can't live with them and you can't live without them. I've never met a woman I didn't love, but I've never met a woman I could live with for very long. I finally walked across the street to Martine's at 7 o'clock. Everybody who worked there knew me. I walked in and sat at the bar and ordered a cup of coffee and waited for Sherry. About 8, she came in the door and every head turned. She was just that way. Very pretty and always mysterious. That night she was wearing a black dress that buttoned from her breast to mid-thigh. It was very low cut. She had on fishnet stockings and high heels. I couldn't tell at first glance, but when she sat down, the bottom of her dress parted as she crossed her legs, and there was something I hadn't seen in a long time, a garter snap. I love a woman that dresses like a woman. Only a woman can dress like that and make my mind race to places that drip with sweet poetry. When I grew up, women dressed that way. They wore clothes that were made for women. Blouses, slacks, dresses, shoes, makeup, hair perfect, and nails perfect. Every day and night women lured men in from morning till midnight. And when they went home, they got undressed and still dressed like a woman and looked and smelled like an angel as they moved those silky legs into a man's bed. Where did they all go? Sherry was dressed that way that night for one reason, and brother, it worked. She melted me down and built me up like clay in a master potter's hands. It's an art that no painter has ever captured. Only a woman with a mission can create that feeling in a man.